Phillip and Elizabeth apart for most of the episode. It gets them to rethink a lot of crucial decisions, and many storylines start to intertwine in the episode that seems to be the setup for the rest of the season. Hey guys, come over the American, Season 5, Episode 5, Lotus 1, 2, 3, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. I know some of you might think that I have not been as into this season, and that has not been the case. I just feel like compared to last season, this one has been just a little bit slower, with its, in terms of plots. I think they've definitely set things up quite well, but these, we had the premiere, and the premiere was awesome. I thought it was an incredible way to start things off, and since then, the 3 episodes we've had have been fine, but just not a lot has happened, and it's been a lot of setup, and there hasn't been as much to talk about. Well, that changed in this episode. This is the kind of episode that I love. I think The Americans does an incredible job with these kind of episodes where they'll have Phillip and Elizabeth apart for most of it, and they kind of get in their own little things, and there are these huge revelations, and we start to see storylines intertwine in this episode, and this is really the first episode that truly is starting to feel like the end. You can really tell we're getting closer to that end game, and I absolutely love this episode. From here, I am definitely on board with where the rest of the season is going, but let's just get into this episode because I really did love everything about it. This was easily the best episode since the premiere, and I hope that we continue to have great episodes like this because the show has never had a bad episode in my opinion, but this is the kind of stuff The American just nails at. So we start off with Phillip, and he's uncovered having dinner with his mark, Deirdre, and as we know, Deirdre is just not like his other marks. She does not seem to be that attracted to Phillip. She does not seem to be that into what he's doing. It doesn't really seem like he can sway her, and I know some people speculate that she was a lesbian, and I don't think that's the case out of this episode. If that was the case, I don't think the way things went down is how they would have gone down, but she offers to teach him how to use a new computer program called Lotus, basically, that she is testing, and meanwhile, we see Elizabeth is hanging out with Alex's wife. It's not Alexi, it's Alex, Alex's wife, and she reveals to Elizabeth that she has been going stir crazy, and she's getting a job at Department of Agriculture with Alex, and that she kind of, she doesn't like that he's always, talking shit about Russia, and she really wants to do something about it. And I like seeing Elizabeth bond with Alex's wife, because once again, it's one of those things where she can't say anything. She has to try to be as low-key as possible, and she can't really say anything, because if she does, she's going to give up, what she really is. And I think they did a really good job with that. I think it's definitely one of the more suspenseful things of this season. But after their dinner date, Phillip heads to Deirdre's house for a nightcap, and while they're having sex, we see they are in fact having sex. He has gotten closer. It seems that now he's actually gotten her where he needs to, but he starts having flashbacks to his dismal childhood in Russia, and I thought it was interesting the way we got back to that. We know how bad his childhood really was and the things that he regrets, killing that kid with a rock and such. But after they're finished, Deirdre is more than happy to show Phillip printouts for Lotus. It seems that she has overall gone through to him, and I thought that was the perfect way to start this episode. You can really tell that Phillip is now getting the information that he needs with Lotus. We know that Lotus is definitely part of what's actually going on. I thought that was definitely very interesting, and I'm definitely interested in seeing where the rest of this plotline is going to go, because it seems like Phillip has Deirdre exactly where he wants her, and I really hope that the rest of the season, it doesn't go that way. I don't want to see this honestly go well for him. I'm interested in seeing, I'm hoping the mission goes well, but I don't think this is necessarily going to go well for him. I'm interested in seeing really what the downfall of this is really going to be, because I definitely think there's more to Deirdre than we think. So the next day, Elizabeth and Phil, they head to Henry's school to meet with his teacher, and as we found out last week, there was a lot going on with Henry, that he liked these girls, and that he was having kind of problems in school, so we find out what that's all about. Basically, it turns out that Henry's actually doing fairly well in school, and they thought that, it was that some girl was doing his homework, or that someone was tutoring him, but no, he's actually doing really well, better than the other students, to the point where they want to move him up a grade to Algebra 2, which is not really unheard of. I mean, I see that happen a lot in my school. Someone will be like in a class, and then they'll see they're doing well, they're going to transfer them to the other class because this math is just simply too easy for him. And their reactions to it, I mean, obviously they're baffled. They can't believe that their Henry would do this kind of thing, and that their Henry would be this good at math, and that he actually would be involved with this kind of thing. And I'm actually really happy that Henry has a plot line. I feel like for most of these 5 seasons, Henry's kind of been background. Like, he's had things here and there with Stan and things like that, but he's never really had a plot line to this extent, and I'm happy to see that he has stuff here. I think they've done a very good job with actually incorporating Henry, because again, I think he's finding out this season. I think that's definitely going to go down, and I think that giving him a plotline is absolutely paramount to him, with that reveal. He needs to have his own plotline before that happens. So they thought Henry just played video games all day. They have no idea why he's suddenly a star scholar, but on the way home, Elizabeth fills him in on her meeting with Alex's wife, and basically if she gets the job, it will make their jobs a lot easier, because that way Alex, can report to them what's going on, and they'll be able to get information from them. So really it's kind of a win-win situation for everyone, which I think is really good, obviously is really good for them. So Stan and Renee then head to the movies, and I like Stan and Renee, I do, but again, I don't trust her. Just something about Renee just doesn't steer me right. I don't see Renee as someone who actually is going to work out well for Stan. I've said this before. Give me one relation that Stan has had in this show that hasn't turned out terrible. I mean, he had Sandra and he cheated on her. Then he had, for a while he had Nina in his life, and they kind of had a thing, and then that went well. Then she went to prison and died, so that didn't go well. Then he had Zanadia, as we know. Zanadia was in his life, and it seemed like maybe they were going to start something. She was a double agent, as we know, so that didn't go well for him either. So I don't believe that this is actually going to be the girl for Stan. I don't think it's possible. I honestly do not think it's possible for Stan to have a good woman in his life. I just don't think it's possible. We know Stan's very awkward. We know that he doesn't know how to say things, and this very well shows that. So they're heading to the movies. They stop by, invite Elizabeth and Phillip to tag along, but they turn them down. They're going to go see Romancing the Stone, and when they arrive home, they can't wait to tell Henry the good news about his teacher moving up a grade, and he's upset that his parents are so surprised, because he really worked hard on this stuff, and you can really tell this stuff matters to him, which I like seeing. I like seeing that Henry's very passionate about this, and that he really wanted to do well, and I think just he's realized that his parents, they're always invested in Paige. They all, it's always Paige this, Paige that, Paige does this, or, oh, Paige is so great at this, but they don't really give Henry credit, and it's because they don't see him a lot. I mean, yes, it's a recurring joke on the show about how many times Henry's gone. Sure, it's funny, but at the same time, Henry is a very talented kid, and he is very good at math, and that's something that they've never really realized until now, and I think that's something that is really starting to get to Henry. I think he's really going to start to have suspicions about why his parents are just not really paying attention to him, because obviously they want to. It's not that they don't want to. It's because of the kind of job they have. It's a very demanding job, and it's just, again, they can't tell him what they're doing, and he storms off to go play his computer games, and I really do like Kedrick Saletti. He's doing an incredible job this season. I love that they're giving Henry more stuff to do. It's really benefiting him as a character, and I'm very happy that they're finally giving him that long-awaited plot that we've been waiting for. So later that night, Phillip notices that Renee is still in the driveway, and she's spending the night again, so he knows definitely something's going on. He confesses to Elizabeth that he thinks something is up with Renee, and that she might be a Russian spy as well. And Elizabeth thinks his theory's crazy. I mean, why would she be a Russian spy? Why would some random girl go to Stan? And yeah, I mean, I can understand why Elizabeth feels that way, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense. Again, Stan's never had luck with a woman, so Phillip points out that they have been sending the center detail reports about Stan. They knew that he was single and lonely and could have placed his girlfriend at the gym, basically to try to break him, and I think to use her to see if Stan would actually fall for her, and see if he did find out, how would he react, because they know that Stan is in cahoots, well, not in cahoots, but they know that he definitely has information about the Russians, and that he has worked with the Russians before, and they know that he has that information that he probably should not have, and he's gotten closer with Oleg, he had a relation with Nina. They know about all this stuff, and because of that, now I think they're trying to test him. I think that's what Phillip thinks is going on. This is simply just a test thing, and I think it's interesting to see where exactly that's going to go, because I think definitely that's interesting. But even more interesting than that is Mischa. Now, Mischa this season has been relatively sporadic with what they've given him. They've given him maybe one or two scenes each episode. This is the episode, though, where Mischa becomes a lot more important to this plot. And I was very happy to see that. I have loved what they've done with Mischa so far. I think he's been they introduced him in season 3, and I wasn't into it. I thought it was kind of just weird and random. It just felt like a random thing they did. I didn't realize that they really were setting up something for the end, and that's exactly what they've done here. They introduced him in season 4, and I think since then it's been a pretty steady ride where we have this character, he's trying to track down Phillip, and it seems like he's getting pretty close. He basically has arrived in the States. He calls a switchboard operator and speaks in code, and he says that he needs to see Dr. Walters, and his name is Stacy McAllister. Now, obviously, that's not his real name. The woman's taken aback by this, and she tells Mischa to call back tomorrow at 4 p.m. and basically, she tells him that if he wants to do that, she's a translator for him and all this kind of stuff. So, obviously what he wants to do, what his angle is, and I think definitely this is compelling the way they're handling this, but Elizabeth's undercover, and her new Mark is cooking her lunch. He's a scientist at Agricor, and if we remember, Elizabeth feels that he is the sole reason why the food shortage is going on, and why the whole problem with the crops are happening, and why the pests are here. That's what she thinks is going on. He wows Elizabeth with his culinary skills and brags about his bottle of Egyptian wine, and their scenes together are some of the best scenes in the entire episode, because Elizabeth has to be very, very secretive, and she has to play a character that she really does not want to play. She has to play someone who is in favor of what he's doing, and that is impressed by what he's doing, rather than someone who is, upset about what he's doing and angered, because she is very angered. You can tell throughout this episode, she doesn't show it obviously, but she is definitely getting very angered, and she definitely is getting quite aggravated by what he's saying, and it's really starting to bother her, and she has to try to cover that up, and her poker face is really, really good, and obviously it is. I mean, you would know that, if you were in the job for as long as you were, definitely it would be, but especially in this situation, her poker face is very important to this mission, and she gassed him up, raised about how interesting he is and how he knows so much about so many different things, and basically, she acts like he's this great guy, and it's not long before they do end up having sex in the bedroom, and I thought that was definitely very well cut. We see it's also cut with Phillip making a big show of playing football in front of the house with Tuan, and you can tell that Phillip, he's getting closer to Tuan, almost like Tuan is his actual son, and I think it's only a matter of time before that's kind of how this is going to go. That, they have to pretend that Tuan is actually their son, but Phillip is acting like he actually is their son, which he knows he's not. But I think Phillip is just feeling a closeness to Tuan. I think we're definitely seeing this this season. So Phil then heads home to his real home to have dinner with Paige, and this scene I really did love, because Paige's arc, I've said, has been one of the more compelling arcs of this season by far, but this scene really does show the conflict that she's struggling with, because she awkwardly jokes about how Henry is the brains of the family and not her, that he's just smarter, and yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it is. He's much smarter than her, and even though she studies relentlessly, and basically, he seems to be the smarter one, and he's praised for it, and she doesn't really understand that, and their conversation quickly changes to Matthew, which is understandable. Paige confesses that she's been having second thoughts about dating him, and basically we find out that the second she met him, she liked him, and that she's always had this crush on him, and when she realized that he liked her, she took that chance, obviously. This is a guy that she's liked for years and years and years, and, they've been in their house for like 5 years now, so it was really just a long time coming for her, and to admit that he, for him to finally, come out, basically just come out and say, hey, I like you as well, obviously she's going to take that chance, and basically now she's having second thoughts about dating him because of the situation that they're in, and she thinks that because of her parents, she screwed up, and that she can't have a boyfriend, she's just meant to be alone, and I didn't see this as her trying to mock Phillip and Elizabeth, being like, they could have easily portrayed this as Paige mocking them or her being like, just trying to make them feel bad, but I didn't see it as that. I think Paige genuinely is starting to feel like this. Like, she just should be alone. She can't have a boyfriend. And that's something that, we've known throughout the show. The Phillip and Elizabeth, even though they are in a relationship, that's never really been something the center is in favor of. The center has always kind of been against that. And they've always wanted them to, the center's always kind of wanted them, to put that at bay and try to end that as best as they can, and they really did not want them in that relation. It was supposed to be arranged, but throughout time they've just kind of fallen in love with each other, and I think that's kind of what Paige is going through here, where she's realizing that she has genuine feelings for someone in a field that she just can't. And obviously she's not a real KGB agent yet, but I think she's getting there. I think she's just realizing this is what she's going to have to do. She's going to have to become a KGB agent at some point. If she wants to do that, she needs to live like a KGB agent and think like a KGB agent. If she wants, and if she not wants to, but is going to become one, she can't have a boyfriend. And it's really sad to think about, but I think that's something that she's just kind of realizing, and I think that definitely is going to be interesting to see where that goes. So, Gabriel and Claudia then meet in secret, and this scene I really did love, because not only did it show Gabriel's care for the family, but it showed Claudia how different these two really are, because, I mean, this is the first season where I've really seen these two, interact a lot. We've seen things here and there, but this is really the first season where they've been interacting a lot side by side, and you really see how different they are, because Gabriel fills her in on Mischa and reveals that there was a call intercepted for Phillip, and Mishka's trying to get in contact with his father, and Claudia wants to make sure that Mischa doesn't find Phillip. She thinks it's a horrible idea to reunite father and son, and she says Mischa can't be trusted. He's unstable, he's defected from the army, it's a terrible idea. I mean, he's lived in Russia all his life. He could very well ruin things for Phillip because of his Russian accent, and because of his background, and because he knows how things are in the Soviet Union. So this could end up really, really badly for them, and you can understand that. However, Gabriel, you can tell he feels a lot more sympathy for them because he's known them a lot longer. He's always been that, like, fatherly figure towards them. Remember, he was their first handler. So what we really do see here is Claudia, yes, I think she does care about Phillip and Elizabeth, physically, but not really emotionally. She doesn't have that just that sympathy and that empathy that Gabriel seems to have, because he cares about them more. He's known them longer. He thinks that he really cares more about their family. He wants them to have a good family life. She doesn't really care about that as long as they get missions done. And I think this was really the first time where we saw Gabriel not act like he didn't have feelings, because I've said before, Gabriel is definitely very direct, but as we do see in this episode, there is a much more caring side to Gabriel than Claudia will ever be, and that's really the reason why I think Gabriel has stuck as their handler and not Claudia. So we don't get a ton of Oleg in this episode, but we do see in the Soviet Union, Oleg returns from home. His parents have a surprise for him. Basically, they invited 3 women over for dinner, and they're all fawning over they're all fawning over him, trying to impress Oleg, and he's kind of like in a bachelor position right now, so that was kind of fun to see. We didn't really get to see, like I said, a lot of Oleg, but what we got to see was definitely fun. I definitely did enjoy that. There's a cool scene at the end, definitely something that's definitely going to be very important, but Mischa calls the operator back. She tells him to head to Truman Park at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and you can just see the hope in Mischa and the joy that is overriding him here. He finally feels like after so many years he's going to reunite with Phillip, and that he's finally going to get to see Phillip in the park, and he's going to be able to have that father in his life. That's something that he really hasn't been able to have. He didn't really have the best life. He's always wanted his father to be there, and he is hoping that this will finally be that chance. And I don't know the actor that's playing him, but he did an incredible job here. I love what he really did. But we'll get to what happens there. But Matthew's growing suspicious of Paige. He finally confronts her about why she's been avoiding him, and she insists that she likes him a lot, but he's her first boyfriend, and she's not sure how to act sometimes. And even though Matthew, he definitely has helped her through this, and he's been, I think, very helpful, and he definitely has, had sympathy for her, as a boyfriend should, after a while, he knows something's going on. He knows there's definitely something much more deeper going on, and again, I think he's gonna be the one to find out, what really is going on. I just feel like that would make the most sense, how Paige found out, through Phillip and Elizabeth, I think he's going to find out in the same way. And I think Stan, that's how Stan's going to find out. It's going to be through Matthew. And I don't think Matthew's going to tell him. I think something's going to occur. I think Matthew's going to be looking up some information or something like that. I think definitely, though, Matthew is going to find out, definitely, what Paige has gotten herself into, because I mean, it just seems inevitable. It seems like he is already kind of picking up on things, and it's scary to think about the fact that he really is picking up on things, but at the same time, no shit he's going to pick up on things. I mean, after all that she's done, kind of giving him mixed signals and acting like she doesn't want to be in a relationship and being very distant, and before she was being very loving and caring, obviously there's something more going on. So he's definitely going to find out some points. But then we get one of the most crucial scenes of the episode where Elizabeth is still canoodling with the agricore scientist. They sit in front of the fireplace, and she gets him to talk about his work. And apparently, he's working on the strongest strain of wheat known to men that can withstand any pests of climate, and he's determined to help countries that are starving. So he actually wants to help the country, and he's experiencing food shortages, and it sounds like he actually be one of the good guys. He actually wants to help the country, believe it or not, which I like seeing. I like this little twist here that for once one of their marks wasn't against the Soviet. It was a really refreshing surprise. I don't really think we've seen something like that before, but yeah, he actually is in favor of helping them, and he actually is using the pests as, he's kind of using, the pests as a way to kill what's going on and a way to get the pests away. And he's trying to, the reason the pests were there is because he was making sure that the wheat could kill the pests. And I think it's interesting the way that's going. I think it really is making us rethink a lot of things, and it really does make a lot of sense. He just hasn't felt that intimidating. He hasn't felt like he is the one behind all this, and now it really does make sense because he's not the one behind all this. Now, who is? I don't know. I don't really know who that's going to end up being, but I think it's interesting where this is going. I'm definitely interested in seeing where we're going with this plot, and I think this definitely takes things in a much stronger and much more important direction than we think it's going to, especially when we get to the ending of things. So we then get this really heartbreaking scene where Mischa heads to the park, and again, he's expecting to see Phillip there because he's waited all his life for him, but Phillip, of course, doesn't show. Instead, Gabriel does, and the scene between Gabriel and Mischa was really well done because Gabriel and Claudia decide to never tell Phillip his son was even looking for him, we find out, because, again, he's got too much on his mind, so they don't want to do that. But Gabriel tells Mischa that if he cares about his dad, he will go home and forget about trying to find him. So yeah, he's literally telling him, look, I know that you've spent all this time trying to find your father, but we want you to go back. It's just not safe for you here. And Gabriel even offers to get him home safely. So the way he does this, you can really tell he cares about this kid, and he wants things to go well for him, but he just can't explain all. There's too much that this kid has been through. There's too much that is on his mind, and I really like that, fatherly way that he really wanted to help Mischa. I think Gabriel a lot of times comes off as a villain, and I think that they really have, he really isn't. I don't really see Gabriel as a villain at all, actually. I see him as someone who, yeah, he's very strict, but it's because he cares so much about Phillip and Elizabeth. He wants things to go well for them because he knows how risky things are, and he's someone who, he's very experienced with this kind of thing. You have to, think that he was an agent once, and that he himself has been through this kind of thing, and I like the way he really wanted to help Mischa get out of there. So where is Mischa going to go the rest of the season? Is Phillip going to meet up with him? I think at some point, definitely before the end of the show, but I think we're definitely going to take a little bit of a back seat from this for a little bit. I think it's going to come back at some point, because anything that seems like it's done the Americans always does come back until that character's dead. But I do think that Mischa is going to be put on the back burner for the next couple episodes, which I'm fine with. I think we get some really great stuff with him. I think they've really delved into his plotline quite well. There's been a lot of layers there. I'm going to miss it, definitely, but I'm definitely interested in seeing where that exactly is going to go, because it definitely is going to connect more to Phillip as a character. But Elizabeth then returns home from Kansas. She tells Phil that they were wrong about her Mark Stobert, and he's one of the good guys, and he's trying to save the world. The bugs that they were found were there to test the crops for resistance, not test ways to call up the Russians, and through this little interaction, Phillip realized that, holy shit, the man that they killed, the scientist, that they killed in that lab, they killed him for nothing, and there was no reason for him to die. So this was an innocent man that they killed, and I kind of predicted that. I predicted that there's definitely more going on here. This is definitely going to come bite them in the ass. It just seemed like too easy of a way to get out of it. So that scientist was actually the one trying to protect them, and they basically killed one of their allies, and he was completely innocent. So this has just gotten a lot more interesting now. Where exactly we can go with this, there are so many directions that can go. I can't wait to see where that's going to go, but that's still not the end, because we see Oleg, he's following the map that the CIA agents handed him. He heads to the meeting place, but no one ever shows up. So I don't know what that's all about. If the CIA is going to cooperate with Stan did, I guess time will tell, but definitely this is not going to go the way that Oleg, I think, thinks it is. But Phil then takes Tuan for food, and he can tell that something is bothering him. And Elizabeth arrives a few minutes later looking for Philip. Tuan can tell that something is up between them, so he heads upstairs, and Philip admits that his heart isn't in their work like it was, basically. That he just isn't really into it anymore. It's been, a lot for him, and what they have to do has been very hard on him. He just doesn't have that, chutzpah and things like that like he usually does. He isn't as into the mission. It just is really starting to have an effect on him, and their age definitely is starting to very much affect him. But that is the way this episode ends. Really incredible stuff overall. Let's just get into this episode and where I think we're going to go from here. So overall, guys, it was another really incredible episode. I really am loving where this season is headed. But let's get to a lot of what went down, because, again, there are now so many places that this season can go. This whole thing now of this guy that Elizabeth has been with as her mark is actually on their side is really compelling, because, one, he doesn't know Phillip and Elizabeth's identity. Two, he could actually be working for them, and he actually could be one of their allies, and they could make him useful, possibly. In fact, I kind of see him as the William of the season, where he's going to be out there getting information, helping them in what's going down. I don't know if he's going to suffer the same fate as William, but I definitely do see him as sort of like a William type character, where he's kind of going to be like a patsy, where he investigates information for them, and he's there if they need him, and he'll do what he can. So I definitely think Elizabeth is going to let him in on what's actually going on, and how this mission actually is going to play out. I feel like that definitely is going to happen. It seems inevitable, too, and it seems like it'd be the smart thing to do. I mean, he is working for them after all. Why not put him to good use? It just kind of seems like it's inevitable. But now that we know the scientist's death, that this guy is innocent, I mean, this now puts Phillip and Elizabeth in a much more, in a much more, just serious situation, because now they're in a position that I think is a lot more important. It's a lot more, it's a lot more urgent now, and knowing that this was completely just an innocent guy and that they actually got it wrong, there are a lot of places we can go now where this is going to go. I think they're definitely in a much more crucial position than they were before, and this whole idea of this guy, actually being on their side, and probably was the one helping them. And now that scientist is gone, I mean, who knows where that's going to go? It's just a lot. Like I said, it made things just feel a lot more important, and I like that. I like that did come back to bite them in the ass, because I knew it definitely was going to come back in some fashion. That's how the Americans is. They'll set up things, and you'll think it doesn't mean anything, and then it'll come back, and you're like, holy shit, this is what they're actually getting to. There's always an endpoint, and I love that. I love the way that's going. I'm interested in seeing really what's going to happen there. As far as the whole thing going on, though, who I think could be the person that is behind all this, I mean, I really don't know at this point. I don't know who really could be behind this whole thing, and I don't think we're going to find out for a while. I think definitely the actual person who's behind what's going on, I don't think we know. Maybe Deirdre, I don't know, maybe Renee. I feel like Renee definitely is going to be one of our, villainous characters. I could see her as, a Kate, for example. If you remember Kate in Season 2, she was temporarily Phillip and Elizabeth's handler, but she was in, as we know, a relationship with that kid Jared, so I could kind of see Renee going in that direction. Something about her I don't trust whatsoever. I don't even think she's on Phillip and Elizabeth's side at this point. I think she's in a much more, she is definitely as much more volatile intent, and I don't exactly know what that intent really is, but that intent definitely intrigues me, and I think it's going to end up really badly for Stan, honestly, and it sucks because, I mean, we all want Stan to have a good girlfriend. We really do. We want Stan to have that relationship that works out well for him, but I don't think this is the girl. Something about it, I don't think this is going to be the girl for Stan. I wish it was. I really wish that I could say, okay, Renee is absolutely going to be the girl for Stan that finally he'll be able to have a relation with, but I just don't think it's going to be her, and it sucks, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Phillip, as we can see, is getting a lot closer to Tuan, and I think it's going to become a problem eventually, because the closer he gets to Tuan, the more Tuan's going to be let in as to what's actually going on. I think the more suspicious Alex and, Alex's wife is going to be. I think definitely he is putting himself in a much more, tenuous position by doing that, definitely. He needs to be very careful how he handles that, and I can understand why he's getting a bit tired of it. I mean, he's done this pretty much all his life. He's getting a lot older, and he just can't handle anymore. He just can't, he's not into the whole idea of all these missions and spying and finding marks. I mean, he's done it all his life. He just wants a break. He wants some semblance of a normal life. That's exactly what his daughter wants, and I love that he is starting to come around to that. It makes me feel like he has a lot more sympathy for Paige than he does, which deep down, I think he understands it. I think he really does get what Paige is going through. Remember, they never wanted to let her in on what happened, but Gabriel basically told them to because it was the right thing to do. I mean, the more suspicious she was going to get, it was better that they told her than her find out herself. Because I had this crazy theory back in season 2 that Paige was going to end up betraying them. I don't think that's going to happen now. There's no way that's going to happen in this show. I don't know what I was thinking. I just had this theory that Paige was going to end up betraying them and that she was going to go in a completely different direction. But I'm glad the show didn't do that. I think it's a lot more interesting where Paige is right now, where she's realizing that if she wants to be in the KGB and she wants to actually be treated like an actual agent, she can't be with Matthew. And, she wants that relationship. She really does, but she just can't do it. And I think, like I said, Matthew is eventually going to find out. He's getting more and more suspicious as things are going on. And I think definitely that's going to put Paige in a very, very serious and vital position. And I don't know how that's really going to go down. I don't know if this is going to go well for Paige. I'm hoping for her sake it does. I just have this feeling that's not going to go well for her, and things are going to go really bad between her and Matthew. I want things to go well. I really do. I want these two to have a future together. I want these two to actually have some semblance of that normal life, but I just don't think it's possible. I think because of the position she's in and because of the things that the type of, occupation, things like that requires, I just don't think she can have that normal life. And you really want her to, but I just don't think she's going to be able to have it. And I think he's going to find out before anything. So I think it definitely is going to be interesting. And then as far as Mischa, I like the way Gabriel handled it. I like that he told them to go. He tried to do it in a very somber way, but not in a malicious way. He just said, look, son, the best thing to do is to leave. You can't be in his life right now. Phil doesn't even know that Mishka's out there, so it would just make things more awkward between him. So for his sake and for Philip's sake, he already knows the pressure and things that, Philip has gone through. I think he knows Philip's background, things like that. So I think he knows the best thing to do is to not let him in about Mischa. But he's going to find out. I mean, Mishka's out there, he's going to have his ways of contacting Phillip. I don't think he's going to stop. I think he's going to try to do what he can to find Phillip. I think he's eventually going to get impatient, definitely. I mean, imagine if you spent your entire life knowing your father was out there, but you never got to see him. Eventually, you'd want to see him, and I think that's exactly what Mischa has gone through. As we know, Mischa has just recently returned from the army, and he wants to finally be able to meet up with his father, and he didn't get to do that, but I think that definitely is going to come out at some point. I don't know really where that's going to go. Overall, guys, this is the kind of episode I want with the Americans. I love this episode overall. So much great stuff being set up here between now that we know that the, what we thought was the enemy is actually kind of like the resistance. They're on their side right now. They can trust them. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Paige now and Matthew, that whole situation is very complicated. Renee, you don't really trust her, and Stan, you want Stan to be in a good position, but you just don't. Even Gabriel, I mean, the show really knows how to get you to care for these characters, and they do it in an incredible way, and I think this episode really shows how great they are at character work and at crafting really interesting storylines. Overall, this was the best episode since the premiere by far. I really did love this one overall, and I'm definitely giving The Americans Season 5, Episode 5, Lotus 1, 2, 3, a 4.75 out of 5, or an A. So overall, guys, summary of this episode, the Americans, let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall, left your thoughts in it. I really am loving this season so far, as usual, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for the third premiere. I don't really know what to call it. The third pod premiere. I really don't know at this point, but it will be for the return of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.